Welcome to Gaming Instincts. Today, I'll be reviewing Mario Kart World for the Nintendo Switch 2, the latest entry in what is arguably the biggest and most popular kart racing franchise on the planet. The Mario Kart series originally began on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System back in 1992, followed by a sequel on the Nintendo 64 titled Mario Kart 64. That entry was the second in the franchise and released in 1996 in Japan, then worldwide in 1997. Fun fact, Mario Kart 64 was initially planned as a launch title for the Nintendo 64, but it was delayed so Nintendo could focus on Super Mario 64 instead. We could spend all day discussing the many Mario Kart titles, but for now, let's focus on Mario Kart 8, which was the last major entry before this one. It originally launched on the Wii U on May 29th, 2014. Fast forward to 2017, Nintendo released an enhanced version called Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on April 28th, just 55 days after the Nintendo Switch launched. This version included all the original game's content, along with new characters, tracks, vehicles, and game modes. And now here we are in 2025 with Mario Kart World launching alongside Nintendo's latest console, the Nintendo Switch 2. The big question is, was it worth the wait after all these years? But more importantly, is Mario Kart World truly worth your $80? The short answer is no, but let's find out why it is not worth the $80. Quick disclaimer, I've played through all the cups and tracks on 150cc, the hardest difficulty, and managed to earn 3 gold stars in every single cup, along with a gold trophy in Grand Prix mode. I also completed all the cups in the new Knockout Tour mode, which I'll discuss further in this review. On top of that, I spent a significant amount of time in free roam mode, unlocking as many stickers and character skins as possible to truly evaluate how the open world concept works in Mario Kart World, and whether it blends well with the series' traditional mechanics, especially with new additions like wall riding, rail grinding, charge jumps, and so on. Normally, Gaming Instincts receives review copies for our YouTube channel and website. However, in the case of Mario Kart World and the Nintendo Switch 2, I had to get the system out of my own pocket on my own merits, since Nintendo did not provide early review units of the Nintendo Switch 2 even for the mainstream outlets, let alone smaller websites like ours. Regardless of all that, I am here to answer all of your burning questions in this full in-depth review. Be sure to stick around for the entire video to catch my final score, rated on a 10-point scale. Here at Gaming Instincts, our reviews are always honest and unbiased, and we break them down into storyline, gameplay, graphics, art style, audio, performance, and of course, a final conclusion with a final verdict. If you are looking for the latest video game reviews and the hottest trending gaming industry news, make sure to visit our website over at gaminginstincts.com and subscribe to this YouTube channel with notifications turned on. Without further ado, let's begin. Normally, the first thing I'd cover in a game review is the storyline and overall premise, but in the case of Mario Kart World, I'll be jumping straight into the gameplay. The differences from the last century, visual upgrades, audio design, and finally, whether it's truly worth your hard-earned money. And to save you time and be fully honest with you and transparent, it is not, as I already said that. But if you want to understand exactly why and hear every detail that led me to that conclusion, then feel free to stick around. The very first thing you'll notice about the gameplay in Mario Kart World is the addition of several new mechanics layered on top of the traditional drifting system. This time around, players can ride rails, perform charge-up jumps, and even wall ride by hopping onto vertical surfaces to gain momentum. You can also pull off tricks while airborne, which grant you a short speed boost upon landing. At first glance, these mechanics may just seem like another way to gain a slight edge in races, and to be fair, that's part of it. But the real reason Nintendo introduced these features becomes clear once you start exploring the game's new open world design. They're essential for discovering and mastering the wild new shortcuts scattered throughout the tracks. These mechanics also play a major role in the game's free roam mode, which I'll be discussing in more depth later in the review. Introducing a freely explorable open world meant Nintendo couldn't rely on the same track designs from previous centuries. Every track had to be reimagined to fit this new layout, making it the perfect opportunity to evolve the franchise with fresh mechanics. Fortunately, Nintendo excels at building gameplay systems around strong core ideas, rather than overloading players with gimmicks that are either underdeveloped or not fun to use. Wall riding, rail riding, and charge jumping are just a few of the new mechanics you'll encounter in Mario Kart World. And in true chaotic Mario Kart fashion, this entry takes things even further by bumping up the total number of racers from 12 to a whopping 24, turning every track into a wild, unpredictable battleground. That's exactly double the player count, making the action more chaotic than ever, and Nintendo fully embraced that chaos by introducing several brand new items. One standout is the hammer, which fires 3 hammers in a straight line depending on where you aim. It can stun opponents for several seconds, making for an easy overtake. Another new item is the feather, which lets you perform high hops to trigger mid-air tricks for a boost or leap over oncoming obstacles like trucks, buses, and all kinds of vehicles. Then there's the golden shell, which not only damages riders on impact, but also spills a shower of coins crucial for speed, since maxing out your coin count gives you a slight speed boost. There are even more items to uncover, but I'll leave those surprises for you to discover. Now that we've covered some of the new mechanics, let's talk about the game modes. It wouldn't be a Mario Kart game without the classic Grand Prix mode, where you select a cup and race through 4 tracks against 23 other AI competitors. At the start, you'll have access to 7 cups, including Mushroom Cup, Flower Cup, Star Cup, Shell Cup, Banana Cup, Leaf Cup, and Lightning Cup. Once you complete all 7, you'll unlock the final and 8th cup, the Special Cup. That is a lot of cups. The game features a total of 32 tracks, including those in the Special Cup, offering plenty of variety in terms of environments and racing challenges. Once you complete a race, you are given the option to either quit or move on to the next one. However, the following 3 races in each cup aren't your traditional circuit-style races with multiple laps. Instead, they function more like intermission linear segments with multiple checkpoints that count as laps as you travel toward the next destination on the map. It's clear that Nintendo designed this approach to complement the game's new open world structure and offer something fresh. While it's commendable that they're experimenting and evolving the formula, fans of the classic Grand Prix experience may find this change a bit off-putting. I know I did. The traditional thrill of racing multiple laps around a closed track is replaced by a more guided journey, which might not resonate with everyone. As a result, Grand Prix mode doesn't feel quite as satisfying or fun compared to previous entries. The next mode I want to talk about is Knockout Tour, and in my opinion, this is where Mario Kart World truly shines. Unlike Grand Prix, Knockout Tour seamlessly connects multiple race tracks into one continuous experience with no intermissions or any menus with questions. Instead of doing several laps on a single track, you'll race across 6 connected tracks in one go, with each lap taking you closer to the final stretch of the rally you selected. The way it works is simple. You pick a rally, then race from one part of the map to another. Each rally offers a different route and a set of races. If you manage to place first in every lap on 150cc difficulty, you'll be rewarded with a golden trophy and 3 gold stars. These rallies are completely separate from the Grand Prix Cups and include Golden Rally, Ice Rally, Moon Rally, Spiny Rally, Cherry Rally, Acorn Rally, Cloud Rally, and Hot Rally, all of which are available right from the start. Knockout Tour is also more challenging than Grand Prix in my opinion, mainly because there are no brakes and the AI can be absolutely ruthless on 150cc. You could be leading every lap, only to get wrecked by a blue shell right before the final stretch of the last race and end up losing a placement. On the flip side, you might get insanely lucky and pull the perfect item at the last second. Anything goes in this mode and it's just a lot of fun. Every time someone crosses a finish line, the racers in the last few places are eliminated, so hanging in the back is never a good idea. Another aspect of Knockout Tour is the freedom to find and exploit shortcuts. If you take the time to learn the new mechanics, track layouts, and how the open world structure ties everything together, you'll have a real advantage against both AI and online competition. Most importantly though, Knockout Tour is just straight up addicting and a ton of fun. Then we have 3 additional game modes: Time Trials, Versus Race, and Battle Mode. These modes are mostly unchanged and play exactly as you'd expect. In Time Trials, you can select any track and race solo, either against the ghost or to set your own personal best. Once you've recorded a run, you can upload your ghost data for others to challenge, or download other players' ghosts to test your skills. There's also a global leaderboard, so if chasing world records is your thing, this mode has you covered. In the standard versus race mode, where you can select any track and decide whether you want connected tracks, only random tracks, or any tracks. You can also choose the number of races, with the option going up to a whopping 32, which would take quite a bit of time to complete. The mode supports solo play or team setups, including 2, 3, or even 4 teams competing against each other, with a total of 24 racers. As expected, you can also select your racing class, including 50cc, 100cc, or 150cc, just like in the other modes. Last but not least is the battle mode, which includes 2 sub-modes, Balloon Battle and Coin Runner. In Balloon Battle, players collect items and use them to pop opponents' balloons. Once the player has run out of balloons, they are basically kicked off. The player with the most balloons remaining at the end of the round wins. Coin Runner plays similarly, but focuses on collecting coins scattered around the map while attacking opponents to steal theirs. Both Balloon Battle and Coin Runner winner can also be played solo or with 2, 3, or 4 teams, just like the versus race mode. By default, each mode runs for 3 rounds, but you can increase it up to 8 rounds if you want a longer session. With the regular modes out of the way, it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, the free roam in Mario Kart World. It's clear that Nintendo has made a bold move here, taking heavy inspiration from other popular arcade racing franchises, most notably the Forza Horizon series. For those unfamiliar, each entry in Forza Horizon is set in a different country, with the most recent Forza Horizon 5 taking place in Mexico, and Horizon 4 set in the UK. So naturally, it seemed like a no-brainer for Nintendo to bring the Mario Kart universe into an open world format. But what truly made Forza Horizon such a beloved franchise wasn't just the freedom to go anywhere, it was the overwhelming amount of meaningful content packed into that open world. From discovering hidden cars in barns to breaking speed camera records, smashing collectible banners, or launching off ramps to chase airtime and distance goals. Basically, the world and its activities were much more rewarding. These activities weren't just filler, they provided satisfying progression and valuable rewards that made exploration genuinely worth your time. Not only was it fun, but it was also addicting. So by that logic, it seemed obvious that Nintendo would follow suit, right? Unfortunately, that isn't the case here. Instead, the open world in Mario Kart World feels more like a giant, somewhat empty playground with very little to actually do. Sure, there are hidden question mark panels scattered across the ground and walls that reward you with different stickers when you find them, peach medallions that are tucked away in hard to reach places that also reward you with stickers, and then there are P-switches that offer simple missions. One might ask you to collect 8 blue coins within a time limit, while another could task you with reaching a checkpoint using the game's new mechanics like rail riding, mid-air tricks, or wall riding. And what's your reward for completing these missions? A new character? A new vehicle? Nope, you guessed it, it's another lame-ass fucking sticker. Vehicle unlocks still rely on the same old coin collection system from previous games. Just for the record, I unlocked every vehicle just by going for 3-star rankings on 150cc in both Grand Prix and Knockout Tour, without even needing to touch the free roam. It's ironic that Nintendo chose to emphasize the open world so heavily, yet made it feel so underwhelming and unrewarding. The saddest part is that the tracks, shortcuts, and new mechanics actually work beautifully together, and the world itself is gorgeous to ride through, and the track design is phenomenal. But completing the P-switches missions only turns stickers just feels lackluster. There are, however, character skins to collect, which I'll get into a bit later on how that works. And they do offer a bit more incentive in the free roam, but even those aren't enough to make the free roam feel truly worthwhile in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying Nintendo needed to create a carbon copy of Forza Horizon activities. In fact, they were already on the right track by incorporating collectible question mark panels, peach medallions, and P-switches, all themed around the charm and style of traditional Mario games. These activities fit the universe well and make sense within the context of Mario Kart. But the problem isn't the design, it's the rewards. The incentives feel underwhelming, and there should have been something more exciting or meaningful to chase down and unlock. It really pains me to say this because the potential is absolutely there, but Nintendo decided to squander the opportunity. Don't get me wrong, hunting down the P-switches, peach medallions, and hidden question mark panels is fun, but it's just simply not enough to carry the free roam experience. I also found the character roster to be lacking. Most of them are unlocked through the standard gameplay in Grand Prix or Knockout Tour, but it feels like there should have been more characters. As for character outfits, you unlock them by collecting a new item called Dash Food, which can be found throughout the tracks in all the modes and of course free roam. Some of these are themed around regional cuisines, and when your character eats one, they unlock a new outfit based on that region's dish. Not every character has a unique outfit per region, so your best bet is to explore every course and gather all the Dash Food items. Oddly enough, this was actually one of the more enjoyable and creative systems in the game, and it feels best suited to free roam, where you can move freely between regions and collect at your own pace, without being locked into a specific cop or rally. I also really wish Nintendo had allowed players to interact with the NPCs scattered throughout the free roam world, but unfortunately that's not the case either. It would have been a great touch to talk to Toad or other familiar faces and maybe receive quests like collecting specific items in exchange for exclusive character skins, or even unlocking a secret area of the world map that's not even possible to enter through the warp pipes that are scattered around in free roam. That hidden area could have featured its own unique set of P-switches, missions, and activities, giving players a meaningful reason to explore beyond just surface level curiosity. There were so many creative opportunities for Nintendo to expand the gameplay and inject personality into the open world of Mario Kart World. Instead, they chose the bare minimum, uninspired tasks, weak rewards, and a lack of meaningful engagement. Worst of all, they're charging you $80 for it. Simply put, there's not enough substance here. And while the potential is clearly visible, it's a bit disappointing to see it squandered like this. With the core gameplay systems now covered, I'm going to briefly touch on the online online multiplayer and share my experience with it. After that, we'll dive into the game's visuals and audio presentation before wrapping things up with a final verdict and score. Nintendo has always had a questionable reputation when it comes to netcode and online functionality, so I wasn't entirely sure what to expect this time around with Mario Kart World on the Nintendo Switch 2. Flashbacks to Super Mario Bros. Ultimate come to mind, where latency issues and random lag spikes often turned online play into a frustrating experience. Thankfully, the online sessions I tested in Mario Kart World were surprisingly smooth and provided a pleasant overall experience without any kind of weird disconnects or lags and things like that. When you jump into online play, you'll first choose your preferred game mode, whether it's a classic 3-lap race, the new Knockout Tour, or Battle mode, which includes both Balloon Battle and Coin Runners. After selecting your mode, character, and vehicle, the game places you into free roam while it searches for a match. I really appreciated this design choice because it makes matchmaking feel a lot more productive, where you can actually mess around in free roam, find more hidden question mark panels, or complete more missions and things like that, instead of just waiting to get into a game. Another thing that I really liked about the online functionality is that if you have an extra set of Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Cons or another Nintendo Switch 2 Pro Controller at home, you can bring in a second player locally and both of you can join the same lobby, and there's no need for a second system. I wasn't able to test the 2-player online function myself due to not having an extra controller. That wraps up the online portion of Mario Kart World, and I'm happy to report that my experience has been solid so far. That said, I don't think Mario Kart World alone is enough to prove that Nintendo has truly turned a corner with its online infrastructure. Time will tell. We'll have to see how future titles perform, especially if a new Super Smash Bros. Entry or a Nintendo Switch 2 edition of Smash Bros. Ultimate drops. That'll be a real test of their netcode moving forward. There are two more things I wanted to quickly mention before diving into the tech and visuals: local multiplayer and wireless play. Standard local multiplayer lets you play with up to 4 players on a single Nintendo Switch 2, assuming you have enough Joy-Cons or controllers to go around. Then there's wireless play, which allows you to connect an additional Nintendo Switch 2 system together for up to a total of 8 players in a local wireless environment. Super neat and great for gatherings. What's even better is that both modes let you explore the free roam world together with family and friends, which is a fantastic touch. Alright, it's time to talk about the game's tech and visual upgrades. Is Mario Kart World truly a generational leap in graphical fidelity, and could it have been possible on the original Nintendo Switch? At first glance, many might say it looks like a regular Switch game and could have easily ran on previous gen hardware. Now, I am not a programming or game development expert, but if Nintendo had made this a cross-generational title, it's fair to assume the game would have launched with major compromises just to function properly on the older system. Fun fact, Nintendo actually admitted that Mario Kart World was originally in development for the Nintendo Switch. But as time went on, the team realized that some of the things they wanted to achieve simply weren't viable on that hardware. So they made the decision to cancel the Switch version and instead shift development fully toward the Nintendo Switch 2, making it a flagship launch title. And honestly, I 100% agree with that decision. When you first look at Mario Kart World, it may not seem like a massive leap in graphical fidelity, especially given the timeless nature of its art style. But if you compare it side by side with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the visual improvements quickly become apparent. For starters, the game now utilizes more complex shaders and improved lighting, resulting in a presentation that looks noticeably brighter and more vibrant than its predecessor. Another key factor to consider is the technical leap behind the scenes. Mario Kart World now supports up to 24 racers on screen at once, doubling the 12-player count from Mario Kart 8. On top of that, the previous entry featured closed-circuit tracks with minimal rendering beyond the immediate environment. In contrast, Mario Kart World's open-world design demands far more from the hardware, as it must render the expensive surroundings well beyond the confines of traditional racetracks. In Mario Kart World, you're not just getting double the racer count, you are also getting a full-fledged open world that runs at a buttery smooth, locked 60 frames per second in both docked and handheld modes. Many may not fully realize the technical demands of combining 24-player races with an expensive open world, but it places a significant load on the system's hardware. Impressively, the game outputs at a 1440p with HDR when docked and 1080p HDR in handheld mode. However, due to the LCD screen on the Nintendo Switch 2, the HDR doesn't quite pop the way it would on an OLED display. Load times are another major win. Whether entering a race, returning to free roam, or fast traveling across the map, transitions take just 3 to 4 seconds, rivaling the speed of current gen consoles like the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. One standout visual upgrade lies in the water rendering. Water physics are significantly more advanced than in previous entries, and as most developers know, rendering somewhat realistic water isn't cheap in terms of performance. On top of that, the game features real-time dynamic weather and day-night cycles, which add both visual variety and technical depth. The open world isn't just large, it's interactive, filled with rails and walls that you can ride on, vehicles, characters that you can bump into, warp pipes that take you from one place to another, question mark panels to step on, P-switches to interact with, and so on. All things considered, Mario Kart World is more than just a step up in fidelity. It represents a true generational leap in both visuals and overall technical execution. Before we jump into the final verdict, I want to quickly touch on the audio in Mario Kart World. To be honest, there isn't a whole lot to criticize here. The game delivers an excellent soundtrack as always, and the moment you start racing, you immediately recognize that it's Mario Kart. The music continues the series' legacy of vibrant jazz fusion with dynamic stylistic shifts depending on the track you're racing in. For example, Bowser's Castle features a high-energy rock and roll vibe, while Moo Moo Meadows leans into a country-inspired sound. The soundtrack has never let fans down, and Mario Kart World keeps that tradition alive. As for the sound design, it's equally solid. Characters sound exactly as you'd expect, and new mechanics like wall riding and rail riding are paired with satisfying audio cues. All the classic audio sound effects are still intact, whether it's the satisfying ding of collecting coins, the chaos of item use, or that iconic roulette sound when you pick up a mystery box. It's everything you'd hope for in the sound design of a new Mario Kart title. Alright, now it's time to talk about the final verdict. Let's be honest, Nintendo knew that launching a Mario Kart title alongside the Nintendo Switch 2 would be an easy win, and from a business standpoint, charging $80 makes sense for them. But from a consumer perspective, the value offered at that price is questionable. The idea of free roam is genuinely exciting, but Nintendo fails to capitalize on its full potential. Maybe they're holding back content for future DLC, which of course means more money for Nintendo on top of the $80 you've already spent. Mario Kart World will be receiving a final score of 8.5 out of 10. To be fully transparent, I do believe this is a great game and the direction it's headed in is promising. Doubling the player count, introducing open world design, ending more environmental interaction, showcasing new water tech, real-time weather, day and night cycles, and the introduction of new racing mechanics all point to a true generational leap over its predecessor. However, the open world just isn't utilized to its fullest. It feels like something's missing and there's not much to chase. Instead of rewarding players with shallow collectibles like stickers, there should have been deeper, more engaging activities with far better rewards like hidden secret characters or some crazy vehicle that has maxed out stats for doing everything that free roam has to offer. The $80 price tag stings even more when you realize how much more could have been done with the foundations they've built. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more video game reviews. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful in any way, then make sure to hit like and subscribe with notifications turned on. Peace out and happy gaming.